Got a Sony EDV7300 Ed Beta recorder. The Betamax with ED. ED as in extended definition. Bought this one knowing it was broken. Now I have to fix it. I have the highest quality Betamax that Sony ever made. They pulled out all the stops when they produced this machine. There was 2 models made. This is one of them. We're talking ED Beta. Uses the special ED metal tapes, which are, from what I understand, the exact same tape as a Betacam SP tape, just the packaging is different. Check out the price of these tapes. Tapes are $30 a pop, but if you bought one that was branded Betacam SP, you paid even more. Here's a Betacam tape. We're going to open one of these up, don't worry. But here's a Betacam tape. It's also a metal tape. I got 3 of these here in packages, so we'll open up the one that the package is kind of damaged on. Factory sealed ED Beta. Now you cannot use these tapes on a regular Betamax. So if you find these tapes and you don't have an ED Beta, do not buy them because you cannot use them. They're a metal tape. It will wear out the heads on a conventional machine quite quickly. But let's take a look at the physical cassette. They're beautiful tapes. There will be detection holes on the bottom, I'm sure. Yep. It says here, ED metal tape is produced explicitly for the ED Beta system, enabling a horizontal resolution of over 500 lines. Together with ultra-fine metal particles, this tape will surely provide pictures and superb proportions, they say. But that's ED Beta. This is Betacam. They're both the same tape. What you'll notice looking at the bottom of the tapes is the index holes that are used to tell the machine what type of tape it is. By comparison, we'll look at a regular Betamax tape. This is a standard. This was the highest quality oxide tape that was made for Betamax, and it was the same tape that was used in the standard Betacam as well, before SP. If we look at this one, look at the bottom of it, you'll notice that it has a hole over here that you break so that you don't accidentally record. That's the record lockout, and to record on it again you covered it with tape, but the bottom of the tape is smooth. Now we look at these metal tapes. Both these metal tapes, you will notice that first they moved the cassette or the record lockout from this side over to this side, and these ones just have a hole here. Now what that will do is if you try to put this into a regular Betamax machine, it will detect that the tape itself has the record lockout enabled. In other words, you've removed the tab, so they will not record. Easy enough, you could just put a piece of tape over there and a regular Beta machine would think it's a regular tape and attempt to record on it, but it's a metal tape. So it's not going to record properly, and it's going to wear out the heads a lot quicker. We'll look over onto the other side where there's nothing on the conventional Beta. This is where your red tab is, and this one you can push it up to prevent accidentally erasing or have it down for recording, but they're identical. Now I notice here, slightly different on the detection switches. This one has an extra tab punched out, whereas this one does not. I think that's probably the tape thickness, because this is a BCT30, which is a 30-minute Betacam tape, which is equivalent to an L750. This one's an L500. They call it an EL500, but this is the equivalent of an L500. So 2 hours on the Beta 2-speed on ED Beta versus 30 minutes for Betacam. But this tape, if I put this tape in a Betacam machine, it would be 20 minutes. This would be the equivalent to, or this would be the equivalent to a BCT20 MA. Same tape, same shell. So I can throw this tape, if we look at this, everything's the same. I can throw this tape into my Betacam SX, for example, because Betacam SX can use an SP tape. This is equivalent to a Betacam SP tape. Now that we've got that cleared up out of the way, and of course the format's different, right? The format is completely different. Betacam and Betamax and ED Beta are 3 incompatible formats. The only thing they share is the same cassette size. Now this machine can record and play standard Betamax, but if you put the metal tape in, it'll record at 500 lines resolution, making it the highest quality consumer video format that we had. But it's still a color under system. In other words, it's a heterodyne color like regular Betamax, Super Beta, Super VHS, etc. So the detail is gained in the luminance, but the chroma still is relatively low in terms of picture quality for the chroma side of things. I never really took any training on ED Beta, and I've never worked on one. This is the first one I've seen. And this is my deck. I picked this one up for a song. I know it's broken. I know it's got a front loader problem. So we're going to tear into that and see if I can get this working, because this would be a wonderful machine to add to my collection for archiving work. If we get it working, I am going to record a tape though, and we'll see how it looks. That's if I get it going. So that means I'll have all the formats. I'll have Betamax, I'll have Super Beta, I'll have Beta Hi-Fi, Super Beta Hi-Fi, ED Beta. So like all the high-end Sony equipment, it features wood side panels that we need to remove. So with the screws out, let's remove the top and see which mechanism that's got in it, because I've never opened one of these up before. This is the first one. Not really much to see, is there? Gotta remove the shielding. I see the wires are broken because somebody's been in here. I was told the front loader doesn't work, and that's what we're going to address, the front loader. So let's get in here, remove the front loader, and see what's broken. There's the head drum. Looks exactly the same as a conventional Beta because it is the same. Pinch roller's out of place. Somebody's been in here. Good thing I caught that before trying to load a tape. One of the nice things about finding these old ED Beta machines is that they're all, I think pretty much all of them were relatively gently used. People that bought these ones were typically people that were concerned about quality, and they were editing and so forth, but they weren't using them for everyday time shifting. Some people maybe did, but most of these machines you'll find have been relatively well looked after and do not have a lot of hours on them, just because these came right at the end of Beta, and a lot of people that bought into them and then never really used them all that much. Gotta lift this out of here. Okay, let's deal with the cassette mechanism. We'll deal with this too, because that is out of position, as you can see. So let's just put that back into position. I think there might even be a spring missing from here, you know, but let's just pop the cut washer off. Is the spring still there? Oh yeah, the spring's still there. Okay, we can put this back into position. This just has to fit up here like this, so that it locks in like that. I'm going to turn the mechanism by hand just to make sure that there's nothing else that is obvious on here that's a problem. But yeah, this sits in place like that. There's a spring that pulls it back. I'll wind this through to its loaded position, and then I'll power it up and let it retract. I was told there's gears that are broken on here. Well, we'll see. Looks like it's a side arm out here. Oh, you know what it is? I think it's the plastic pin is broken, so I may have to find one from another machine. I'm pretty sure I've got one of these loaders that I can pick parts off of. I'm pretty sure I've got that one. It's the basket assembly that's damaged. So I'm going to have to go through and look through my collection of broken machines and see if I can find that. Otherwise, what we've done in the past is use small screws to rebuild them by driving small screws in and securing them in place. That's something I've done before. I may just swap this entire mechanism as well. If I've got, I'm pretty sure I've got a complete mechanism that I can just grab, and I'll just change the little front door so instead of it saying Betamax, it says extended definition beta. I think I've got this mechanism. I'm pretty sure I've got it. So I just want to make sure this goes all the way through and locks into place. There, and now if we continue turning this, the pinch roller should be engaged. I'm going to power it up now and just let it retract. That didn't sound good. Uh-oh. It did unload by itself. I don't like that sound. That's a bad sound. That's trying to engage the pinch roller, but it's not. It's sticking. What else is wrong with this thing besides the obvious? The front loader. I got to get into this as well. So let's pull out the loading motor first of all, so that I can inspect and see what's causing it to stick and not engage the pinch roller. Unclip the wires first, and then there's a couple of screws that will just hold this entire mechanism in place. And just pop this out, and we'll take a look at the mode switch and so forth. So I have to release this little clip here as well. It just clips down on here. Just pop that open. This is the planetary gear set on here. So when one gear turns, the other doesn't. So if you lock one, it'll transfer power to the other, and vice versa. There are timing marks on here. There's a timing hole right there that lines up with the hole below the chassis. See, if I move the sub arm assembly, you can see that hole. That's a line there. The other one here, you pull this one back to indicate when it's in the home position. This is the mode switch. We should clean this while I've got it apart. And it just lifts off like that. It fits into, there's a hole down here that it fits into when this turns. This is the cam that operates the pinch roller when it's in place. That cam turns. See, it operates this. It turns this cam. When this cam turns, it operates that. When the mechanism is loaded, it transfers power through the planetary gear set to this back cam here, which then rotates. As you can see, it rotates into position and pushes the pinch roller in. At least it's supposed to. It's kind of sticking at the moment, but it will turn into position once I get things freed up here, I think. Okay, something's making this cam stick here. I can't turn it even by hand. So I'm going to pull the bottom off it and just see if there's any linkage on the bottom that might be causing it to stick. Because that should turn relatively smooth to engage the the pinch roller, and it's not. So I'll pull the bottom off of it and we'll take a look at what's going on the bottom side of the chassis. Another thing I noticed is that the take-up spool is not free. So I'm gonna pop the bottom off. I gotta get a look inside here. It's say this one here has been obviously tinkered with before I got it. So I don't know what to find or what to expect. Because anytime you get into something that somebody has been into, you just don't know what they may have done to it when they were in there. So pull the tooth belt off, put that cover back on so I don't lose it. The lady I bought this from said her husband was tinkering with it. So if someone's been tinkering with something, you never know what they may have done. And that adds to the challenge. Fortunately, I didn't pay much for this unit, so hopefully there's nothing too seriously wrong with it. And it's more than likely just timing is out on things, because if things got taken apart and not put back together correctly, then you end up with things like this gear that's out of position, for starters. But I think it's supposed to be placed in here somewhere, and it's held by the spring that's out of position. So let's just remove it first. I'll just release the little catch so I can check the other side of it. See where it goes. It comes off like that. There's a spring that goes into the bottom here, and I believe it goes, might be a little catch under here. Might go in that little hole right there and in behind this lever. I think that's where it goes. This spring goes into this hole like that and around here. Or does it go around like that? It might go around like that. I think it goes around more like that. It sits in here. Like that. And then this goes in place and it hooks in behind here. Pretty sure that's how it goes in place. So this goes on here like this. And then this is hooked in under the side here. Pretty sure that's where that goes. And that holds that spring in position. And it probably sits like that. That spring holds that in place. This is controlled from the arm on the other side. I'm pretty sure that goes in like that. And then this mechanism goes down in place. Maybe it'll sit like that. There. Now it's nice and quiet when I turn it. The take-up side was sticking, and now the take-up side is free. You'll see when I turn the belt, if you can see it. That's also what was likely sticking the cam gear over here. I should be able to turn this, and it should. Got up all there, out there. This should now turn and not stick, which it doesn't. See, now it goes into position to engage the pinch roller. Of course, I knocked a spring off, so I got to turn this again to release it. And we'll put that little spring back on where it fell off. Goes on this little post here. Grab something smaller to work with. Namely the dental pick. Put that on there like that. Now this cam will turn freely to engage the pinch roller, just like that. And it's also, of course, controlling the back tension. Alright, now when this turns the opposite direction, there's a little catch here. Now if I turn it the opposite direction, it'll release the lock on here, like that. Put the mode switch back into position, and we'll drop in the loading motor. I do have a complete basket for this, incidentally, from another machine. A sacrificial machine, a regular beta machine, not even hi-fi, just a regular mono machine is going to become the sacrificial machine. We'll pull this all the way down to its home position and pop this in place. I'll try powering it up and see if it goes through the loading cycle properly. Yep. And now it's working. Okay, so that's working. That part's working. Good. We fixed one problem. We're going to deal with this as an assembly, as I just so happen that I have another machine which has got a full loading mechanism. I'll put the bottom back on here now and proceed to deal with replacing the front loader. Curious as to how many heads these machines had. Is it a 2-head, a 3-head, or a 4-head? I guess if I remove the damper from the top here, we'll see the head wires and we'll see how many it has. What does it have? It's a 3-head machine. Actually, it is a 2-head machine with flying erase. A field, B field, and flying erase head. This is the donor, a fully functional SL330, no hi-fi. I have a 350, which is hi-fi, but if we're going to sacrifice parts from a machine to fix a better machine, I can't think of a better machine to steal it from, because it's not a hi-fi machine. So we'll pull, I think it's the same. Yeah, it's got a different motor. This one had the motor changed on it. I think I swapped the motor out on this because the motor was bad. But yeah, we'll just swap this over because it's the same housing. Yep, they're the same. You can see what's wrong. You can see what's wrong with this one, right? The plastic pins on the cassette housing. This is broken off of that. Now what we used to do is stick a screw in there and would fix it that way. But in this case, I've got 2 identical mechanisms, so why not just swap them? And then this one can be repaired at a later date to make this machine work. I'll just take out the ED Beta tape door and put it on the other one. So it just lifts out like that. And we'll put it on the other one. Alright, got the tape door back in place. Just put this other basket aside for now. I'll just throw the tape door back on that too, just so that you guys can see how it goes on. Just put it on like that, and then I just do the alignment, line it up with the gears. It's got to go in behind a little tab on the side because it has a latch that stops how far it closes down. It goes on like that, and meshes in there with the gear. And it's really not that difficult until I try to do it on camera. Then it becomes a pain in the ass. Like that, and then the side goes in just like that. That is how they go together. Okay, let's throw this one back into the high-end deck and we'll see whether it works. See what other surprises I've got. Gotta strip some wire here to hook the wires up. These pieces of plastic pop off of the front panel here as I try to not remove it all the way, just to take it out enough just so that I can get this in place. Drop that in like that. Get the screws in to hold it in place. I'm getting excited. This thing might actually work. Okay, I got the front loader reconnected. Let's power the unit up and see what it does. Does it turn on? Yes, it does. It does turn on. I'm going to try regular beta tape on here now. And yes, it loads. Play. Does it play? It does. Doesn't play properly. I'll show you guys the picture, but I got something. I got something to start with. So it's playing the wrong speed. Oh, you know what's happening? The pinch roller's not engaged. So why is it not engaged? Let's see what's going on. Mode switch might be out of position. I bet that's what it is. Yeah, the mode switch is out of position. I'll show you what's happening. It's probably, the little pin on the mode switch is not in the hole. But watch the pinch roller. It engages, and then it really, of course, this time it didn't engage. If I push it here, right? So we're out of position. But we know that that part works. We'll just pop this assembly off and check the position of the switch. I bet it's advanced a little bit. And this is the timing mark for the mode switch. See if it goes into the hole there. It looks like it's going into the hole. Get your mind out of the gutter. Make sure that my timing is correct again here. That to there and that to there. That might be correct. We'll find out in a minute. It's either going to work or it's not, right? One of the two. Oops. Well, that's not right. It'll eject here. That's looking better. Where is the tracking control on this thing? Somewhere here there is a tracking control that will make this play properly. Well, it'll play as good as it's going to play with the plasma interference. I'll have to cover that up, but it is playing now. I get my hands near the head. I'll turn it on the other TV. This one causes just too much interference. So here it's playing my Super Beta test tape, and I can't leave this on because Lounge V will have a connection. As you can see, it has perfect freeze frame. Now, what does this do? That's one frame at a time forward. I can hold that, okay. And I can hold it the other way to go reverse. Interesting, okay. Has digital scan, whatever that does. I guess that's for searching. Oh, what does digital scan do? I haven't figured that one out, but it does play. It's not playing too bad, actually. As one can see, this tape has a fair bit of damage to it. So that part hasn't even been played on this machine. So that might affect the picture a bit. I'm going to try some other tapes in it. And of course I'm going to try making a recording in ED beta mode. It's playing okay. I mean, the tape's got damage to it. It's got a lot of scratches and stuff. So that would probably explain why I'm getting so much disturbance. I'm going to try a Beta 1 tape. I don't think this thing's going to play Beta 1S. Pretty sure it won't play Beta 1S, but we'll try it just for the hell of it. It might play Beta 1S or SHB, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I don't think it's designed to play it. We'll find out pretty quick here if it will play it. Well, actually, it is playing it. I stand corrected. It will play Beta 1S. And it plays it fine. This is SHB that it's recorded in. And it's playing it just fine. Okay, perfect. Looks like this tape's been damaged by a machine too. Look at the top edge. I must have had a machine that these tapes were run through that was damaging the tape as it played. Well, that's no good. Well, this tape's not damaged. And you can see this tape's running nice and true. This is the tape of my Las Vegas signs, the master tape from the camera. And as you can see, it's playing fine. Let's pause, look on this. Look at that. Perfect. Slow motion. Oh, you know what? I don't remember if this was a Super Beta tape or not. Let's switch it off here. Where's Super Beta off? There's the aquarium tape shot on the old GCS1. Oh, what happened there? Why did my picture go away? Do we still have a problem with this machine? Let's take a look at the tape and see if it's riding up the pinch roller when it's put on play. We'll just watch this because it looks like the tape might be getting pulled up. Yeah, look right down in here. Looks like the tape's being pulled up and it's no longer, the control track's no longer being read. If I stop it, watch the tape, see if it drops. Watch the tape. Maybe that pinch roller is worn. I do have another one here. Let's just try it. Swap that pinch roller while I'm at it. Comes out pretty quick, so we'll do that. After all, this pinch roller was in the wrong position when I opened it up initially, so maybe it's worn out. Let's just pop it out of here and look and see. I got another one. We'll put this one on. Looks like the one I'm putting on's got less hours. Original one's on the left. This is the one I'm going to put on. It's got to get the little spring in the right position behind it here, so the spring will push it back. Let's try that one. You see if it cuts out after a few seconds. Now I can play this tape, obviously, so I'm going to let it play. It's looking good. I mean, the picture of this thing's fantastic. I'm just feeding it over composite. This does have S-video, this one. This was one of the few Betamax machines that actually did have S-video because it's a high-band machine. So in other words, playing regular Betamax tapes on one of these here, one of these machines, and using the S-video out, in theory, will provide slightly cleaner color, and it probably won't make much of a difference. It depends on the source. If it was a tape that was recorded on a high-band camera, such as this was recorded on a high-band camera. GCS1 is what made the recording, so the chroma was never mixed with composite on this camera. So if it was sent as an S signal to the monitor, it should look slightly better. No crosstalk. But again, standard beta, like standard VHS, does not have the resolution that will create crosstalk because the formats only supported resolutions up to 240 to 250 lines. I think Super Beta would do 260, but still, that's well shy of the 330 and above that you need. You get your crosstalk around that 330 lines. If your horizontal resolution doesn't make it to 330 lines, you're not going to get any crosstalk. So the only advantage to using S-video out for capture is just the way it's processed. Right? You're not having to mix the chroma and the luminance together and then separate them again. That's where you'd see the differences. When it's mixed and separated, you're not going to see crosstalk. But obviously, if it was a tape that was recorded in high band, and I can do a high band recording because I do have tapes that were recorded on DV, for example, which will have the 500 lines resolution that this machine is capable of delivering. And we'll make a recording. We'll take a DV tape that was shot on a DV camera, and we'll dub it over to ED Beta, and we'll see how it looks. And it should be virtually indistinguishable from the original because ED Beta can do 500 lines of resolution, just like DV could. I could dub a tape from Betacam SP, but Betacam SP only has 340 lines, which is broadcast standard. But the Betacam SP, on the other hand, it has much higher chroma bandwidth. That's the big difference between VHS Beta, all the consumer formats, and the professional formats. All the consumer formats, and that includes 3/4 inch, which was a professional format, but it's a color under system. So the chroma is removed from the normal subcarrier position on the video signal. For NTSC, that's 3.579545 megahertz. For PAL, it was 4.43. That's where the chroma lives in the baseband video. So your baseband video goes from 0 all the way up to 4 megahertz, say, for NTSC. And your chroma is encoded at 3.579545 in that video signal. And when it's on direct recorded tape, 1 inch and quad, the chroma was recorded on the tape as it was in the video baseband. On the cassette formats, 3/4 inch, Betamax, VHS, 8mm, the chroma was removed from its location at 3.579545 for NTSC, and it was converted down to 688 kilohertz for both Betamax and 3/4 inch, 629 kilohertz for the VHS, and 733 for the 8mm and high 8 formats. And then recorded directly on the tape. The luminance, or black and white information, is recorded as an FM carrier, and the chroma was recorded directly as a converted down signal. On playback, that signal was taken from the down converted frequency, and it was converted back up to where it belongs depending on the format. NTSC 3.579545. It gets put back to that carrier or back to that frequency and mixed back in to the video signal. And on the S video outputs on machines that have S video, it's converted back up to that component frequency, but it's not put back in. It's not mixed back in with the video. It's sent on a separate wire to the TV, which then can handle it, or the other equipment which can handle it. So that one step of mixing and separating again gets removed if you're using an S-video signal, and that's why it tends to look a little bit brighter. It's not improving the resolution. You're not reducing crosstalk or anything, because there is no crosstalk there on regular VHS and beta and regular 8mm. There's not enough horizontal bandwidth to cause a crosstalk. But the thing is, when you take your chroma and you convert it down to that lower frequency, well, there's not as much bandwidth. On NTSC, your chroma has about 1.2 megahertz of bandwidth for the red and the blue channels. The green channel, which is what contained most of your detail, went right up to 4 megahertz, but the chroma was only 1.2 megahertz for each, for the red and the blue, which would equate to approximately 120 lines of chroma, whereas your luminance had like 330. But on VHS and beta and 3/4, where the chroma was down converted, it cut the bandwidth down to 629 kilohertz is where the VHS was centered, and you don't have 629 kilohertz because it doesn't go down to DC. So you had maybe 600 kilohertz of bandwidth, and on beta you had maybe 640, 650 kilohertz of bandwidth, and VHS maybe 600 kilohertz of bandwidth. That equated to about 40 lines of chroma for the red and the blue. Betacam, on the other hand, because it records the full bandwidth of color, did 120 lines for the or for the chroma for red and for the blue, for the subcomponents. And that's what made Betacam and Betacam SP broadcast quality, because the FCC stated that you needed 120 lines on your chroma, and of course the signal to noise ratio is a lot better. But a lot of times low resolution stuff did get broadcast, but it wasn't optimal. To record it in broadcast quality, you needed to have that minimum spec, and the Betacam format delivered that spec. DV also delivers that spec, because even though it's encoded in 411 color space, there's still plenty of bandwidth for the chroma. It's still much better than VHS and beta for the chroma. As you can see, this is playing perfect now, so that pinch roller was also bad. So we got a new pinch roller in here. I put the cassette housing in from the other machine and retimed the mechanism, because somebody had their fingers in there and didn't know what the hell they were doing. So now, to break the news as to what I paid for this beast, you guys can guess, but you won't be right. I paid $25 for this, and that included the 3 brand new sealed tapes. So I think I did okay. I knew I was buying a broken machine. I was going to have to fix it, but I also knew that I can fix it, because that's what I do. I fix stuff. So there you go. I'm going to do a test recording. I'm going to go and grab another source. Now that I'm happy that this machine is not damaging tapes, it's playing, I'm going to grab one of those brand new ED tapes. I'm going to grab a source, and we're going to record over S-Video and see how this thing performs. We'll just try all the other modes while I'm at it. So we know that fast forward works, or fast search works. We know that reverse search works. That's full fast forward. And of course it has beta skip. So you hold the button down, it goes into search, and then back to full high speed. And hit rewind. Yeah. Beta skip. With the picture. Back to full speed. Yeah, mechanically, she is working good. I'm going to make a test recording. I'm using my old original HDV HDR FX1 camera because it has S-video out as well as component. We're going to use the S-video out and the audio out. This tape was not recorded on this camera though. It was recorded on, I think this was recorded on the HC3. I got color bars on here now. I've got a color bar generator. We're going to record maybe a minute of color bars first, and then I'm going to record the contents from this tape, and we'll do it at beta 2 and beta 3 so I can get a comparison. But this is the brand new tape, ED metal. We're going to let the tape load up. I'm going to record color bars for, let's say, about a minute first, and then we'll make the recording. Speed up. I'm in beta 2, I think. Here, where are we? There we go, beta 2. Okay, record. And here we go. Color bars. Let this thing roll for a minute or so here on color bars, and then we'll play the tape. I like these tapes. They needed a window on the top so you could actually see the tape turning, because it's kind of cool seeing both reels. They didn't do that for a lot of the tapes. The ED metal tapes and a few of the high-end beta tapes, like oxide tapes, but even the Betacam SP tapes, they only have the standard one window, like they all had, except for some of these ones. Anyway, let's do this recording. Now this is an HD recording that's been down-res by the camera to 480i, but this is a 1080i recording that we are recording. Again, it's the only thing I could do better than this was to find a tape that was recorded on the FX1. I've got them. This is the first tape I grabbed. This was recorded on the HC3. It's still pretty darn good. It's just a single CCD as opposed to a 3 CCD, but resolution-wise, it should be right up there with the others. Maybe not quite as punchy colors, but I think it'll look fine. But I'm curious to see how this looks, because I've never seen an ED Beta before. This is the first machine I've actually even touched or seen. I've seen pictures of them, but I've never seen one. So this is the first one I've seen. This is the first one I've touched. This is the first one I've repaired. And I got it for 25 bucks. For those wondering how old this machine is, well, this is number 20 off the assembly line. All Sony Beta machines started with A8 because the A indicated Japan, and I think it was Tokyo actually, and the 8 indicated the factory, and then the serial number follows, so you ignore the first two. This is number 20 off the line. They did not make a lot of these machines. Oh good, there's shots on this tape at Queenie Park. This was shot with the FX1 3 CCD HDV camera. So this again was shot in HDV, but so this is basically as good a quality as we're going to be able to give this ED Beta for its test evaluation, because these are true high definition shots that are down res down to 480i and sent over S-video. So this is truly as good as I can give this thing. I could have gone and found my a tape that was recorded in DV, but this is going to look just as good. Oh, that was a dropout there. Looks like we had a couple dropouts. That's the problem with HDV, was the dropouts were huge. If you had a dropout, the picture cut out. Well, on DV you get horizontal bands across the picture. On HDV, a dropout, the picture just freezes until it can recover, because of the long GOP used for HDV, the codec for HDV. But picture quality wise, they look great. Use a good tape, a new tape, one that wasn't worn out, and they look good for the first couple times you use the tape. The rule of thumb when you were dealing with DV, and especially HDV, when you were making your first initial recording, you used a brand new tape. You could play the tape back multiple times for editing, but once you edited from it, you didn't use the tape. You didn't wipe it and reuse the tape. You used a new tape every time you fired the camera up, because your chances of having bad dropouts were much lower on new tapes. Once the tape had been through and run through half a dozen times, you go to re-record. It would still play fine usually, but you go to re-record on it and you end up with dropouts, and dropouts were a real issue for high definition on that quarter-inch tape, which was 6 millimeters is the width of the DV tape, quarter-inch, right? These ones certainly were capable and were used. HDV cameras were used for news gathering all over the world. You send them into conflict areas and stuff where someone's just got a small camera and they kind of blend in. instead of carrying this massive camera that, you know, cost $50,000 and weighed 20 pounds and made you a target. Anyway, let this thing record and we'll take a look at the playback. I did a recording beta 2 and beta 3, and now back onto beta 2 now for this section from the 3CCD camera. Well, I continue to make the recording. Here's some fun facts about ED Beta and how it was different than, say, Beta 1 Super High Band. So on Beta 1 Super High Band, which was the SLHF 1000, were the machines that had that recording format, they extended the carrier frequency to 6 megahertz, and that pushed the resolution up to 300. I think it was 320 lines, somewhere around there, 310, 320 lines. It was close to 3/4 inch in terms of quality, or right in that 300 line range. Much better than the conventional, which only had the bandwidth only went up to 5.2 megahertz. 6 megahertz on the Beta 1 speed, on their, what they call the super high band. They pushed the resolution up to a little bit north of 300 lines. ED Beta pushed the resolution to 500 lines, and how they did that was they moved the carrier frequency to 9.3 megahertz. Now, by comparison, High 8 went to 7 megahertz. Super VHS was somewhere around there as well, because they both did 400 lines resolution. High 8 pushed the bandwidth to, I think it was 2 megahertz of bandwidth, and this is 2.5 megahertz. It runs between 6.8 and 9.3 megahertz is the luminance carrier. And that is where they pushed the resolution. That's how they pushed the resolution. I'm just reading some stuff here. So ED Beta was 6.8 to 9.3. Super Beta was 4.4 to 5.6 megahertz, and standard Betamax was 3.5 to 4.8. And the chroma remained unchanged at 688, 30 lines of resolution. Basically, I think I said 40, but they're saying 30 here. That's pretty low. But it stayed at 688. I thought maybe they might bump that up like they did with on 3/4 inch SP. They went from 688 to, I think it was 930 maybe on S. I have to look that up. Not 100%. Not 100% on the 3/4 SP, because I haven't looked up the specs. But anyway, it stayed at 688 on here. But it was just the luminance bandwidth that they pushed way up. So gave you 3.2 megahertz of bandwidth actually on ED Beta. I said 2.5 a minute ago. I stand corrected. According to Wikipedia, it's 3.2, and that's where they really pushed up the resolution. But yeah, it should look good. I should play this tape back now. I think I've got enough recorded that we can evaluate it. So we'll rewind the tape. I'll rewind that one too. And we'll play it back. And I'm going to play it back. I'm just going to play it back on the composite to look at it on the monitor. If I do a capture, I will capture it with S-Video so that we can actually see what the quality looks like captured from S-Video. Okay, let's play it back. I would expected the color bars to be cleaner, but again, it's heterodyne color. See, this is where Betacam would be absolutely superior. It's the color bandwidth, because this only does 30-40 lines of actual bandwidth for color, because it's a color under format, 688 kilohertz, same as regular Beta, and 3/4 inch. So it doesn't have the color bandwidth that, say, Betacam SP did. But horizontal resolution wise, it'll be fine. But the chroma bandwidth is no better than the others. Should be kicking in here in a couple seconds. We'll kick into the video. You're recording about a minute or so. There we go. And there's playback of the video. And I have to admit, it does look pretty darn good. Like, even on the monitor, it looks good. What I will do is I will capture this, and we'll take a look at the actual recording. I'm going to capture it. I'll capture it over S-Video so we can get the best look at how this will perform, how it does perform. But the tape looking there, it looks pretty good. You know, it really looks good on playback. Like looking at the monitor here, it looks exactly the same. You see the odd dropout, obviously because it's analog, but it actually does look really good. As you can see, freeze frame is excellent. It's got slow motion forward and backwards, so it gets its digital effects. And back to play. This is the EDC7300 if you're interested in which model it is. I don't know that I mentioned that earlier, but it's the EDV7300. But this tape looks excellent. The colors, a little more color smear. You can see it around the sunflowers, right? It's not quite as sharp as the original that was in HD, but that, again, that's to be expected because the color bandwidth on this is no better than any other color under heterodyne machine. But other than the color being a little bit on the soft side, the actual horizontal resolution looks fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to capture this tape. We'll put the actual capture in so you guys can see what it really looks like. Instead of just shooting it off the screen, I'll put a capture in. I'll play this whole tape, so you'll see this entire tape that I recorded. We'll put it on. Let's do that now. Like all the other analog formats, color is quite noisy. You'll see it in the cyan bar especially. This is the Beta 2 speed. This is Beta 3 in ED Beta. Not much difference. Chroma maybe a little, not quite as clean, a little noisier. But detail-wise, it looks great. And finally, we'll look at a shot that was done with the HDR FX1. The camera that's playing this back made this recording. 3CCD. Again, this is recorded in Beta 2, so I think this will probably showcase the very best quality that this tape format could deliver. that about does it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. A look at one of these more rare Betamax machines, the ED Beta, which was basically the last kick at the can for Sony. And they made them for a number of years. They did have a very nice camera. I almost bought one, believe it or not. It was a 2 CCD, and it was I think it was about 12 grand. I almost bought one. And then I came to my senses and got the EDV7300 because I already had a Betacam at the time that I was using for commercial stuff. But I wanted longer recording when I was doing events like weddings and concerts and school plays and stuff. So I ended up going with the EDV7300 as opposed to the EdCam. Because it was cheaper, it had an extra CCD, and I already had the equipment to play the tapes back. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Bonus points if you hung until the end. Catch you in the next one. Bye.